Okay, hi. My name is LJ. Welcome to my channel. I am going to warn you before we really start, this is not going to be a lighthearted video. It's gonna be a toughie, honestly, for me. And if you deal with the things that I'm gonna talk about, that too. So just to be warned, basically what I want to talk about today is the start of this channel, because this is the first video in the channel, and how to cope when you're in a crisis. Today, we are going to be crocheting, so I'm going to get my stuff over here, and we're also going to be taking a little hit. What I really want this content to be is crochet, yap, and seshes. So grab your crochet, grab whatever you need to have a sesh, and if you just want to listen, hey, feel free to listen. I don't mind. I'm glad you're here. I'm usually a lot more bubbly, I will be honest, but it's been a really hard 24 hours. It's been a really hard 24 hours, and that's something that I want to talk about. Not obviously talking about what actually happened. That would be not good. But talking about how I'm coping, you know? But before we start that, gotta take a hit. So, cheers. Today I am crocheting a top by, let me check the name of the person. It's like Kaniske? Let me look it up. Hold on. I have her saved, so. Yeah, I want to say Kaniske? Kaniske. Something like that. Kaniske crochet. That rolls off the tongue. Maybe that's it. She recently came out with a pattern for an asymmetrical top, and while I couldn't sleep last night, I started making this. So yeah, first off, what I want this channel to be. I want this to be a safe space. Hold on, let me get my crochet in the frame. I'm gonna have to sit with like really good posture and have it really close up to me. I want this to be a safe space, honestly. I am not only going to talk about mental health on here, I'm going to talk about whatever I want to, really. I mean, it's my channel. I frankly just want to make videos to help me and to give me a space to talk, you know? Because sometimes it's really hard to do that. Sometimes it's really hard to get out your thoughts, and one thing that helps with that, and one way to help in a crisis, is journaling. This is something you want to do really before you're in a full-blown crisis, but it's a good way to either when you're in the beginning stages or in the end stages. It's a good way to slow down your mind, because I know a lot of us, when we are in mental crises, our brains go everywhere. You know what I'm saying? They go everywhere, they don't slow down, and when you're journaling, you have to. You have to slow down your mind, because your brain can't work as fast. No, your hands can't work as fast as your brain. Your hands will always be slower than your brain. There's something about like how fast our brains actually are, and it's bonkers. I don't know the exact number, but it's a very fast number, to say the least. Our brains are really fascinating, and I want to talk about that a little bit more. But back to the thought of, I want this to be a safe space for not only breaking stigmas around gardening, how it can be beneficial, and mental health, how it can be beneficial for mental health, but also just mental health in general, right? Because mental health it's like a buzzword right now, right? because, like, it's one of those things that a lot of people deal with, but it can become trendy in a way, and we don't want it to be a trend. Mental illness is not trendy. It is living hell for a lot of people, and I am one of those people. So I want to end the stigma around mental health is just for attention, because it's not. Now, am I talking about it publicly? Yes, and I don't think that's a bad thing, right? Being open about what you deal with is not inherently bad. It's necessary in a lot of ways. Because if we bottle everything up, it's eventually going to come all out. And whether that's lashing out or something else, it's going to hurt people. And people with mental illness, at least in my experiences, that is the last thing they want to do, is hurt another person, you know? Because we've been hurt a lot in our lives already, and we don't want to put that on anyone else, you know? So that's a thought. Another thing that I want to talk about, getting into the topic of how you can cope in a crisis. Crises are hard. I mean, they're hell. I deal with them not as frequently as I used to, but I still deal with them frequently. And right now, I have been battling a crisis for the past 24 hours. It has been extremely difficult what has happened to cause the crisis, and I'm sorry, my thoughts are really slow right now because I have been up, oh my gosh. Okay, so I didn't sleep last night. I didn't fall asleep until 6 a.m. And I slept for 3 hours. So yeah, I'm kind of, my brain is getting tired. So there's that. But yeah, it's one of those deals, right? Where being in a crisis is extremely difficult and we need to know how to battle it. One of the things that that my therapist has mentioned is a skill called TIPP, T-I-P-P. I can't remember what the two P's stand for, but T and I stand for temperature and intense exercise. Now I have asthma, so intense exercise is very difficult for me. I mean, that can be like sprinting, jumping jacks, anything that just gets your body working really fast. Temperature is a lot easier for me, because it's a bit more manageable. And the way that we handle temperature when it comes to TIPP is anything that'll shock your system. So like taking an ice cold shower, having ice in your mouth. For me, it's usually taking a very hot bath. Not to the point that it burns me, but hot enough that it shocks my system a little bit, right? Because that's what you really want to do. I remember in, sophomore year of high school, I was having panic attacks like every single day. It was bad. And one of the ways that I dealt with them is by taking salt shots. So you know those little like salt packets? I would literally just down one, and then my body was like, oh god, what the fuck is this? Sorry mom, I know she's probably gonna watch this. I'm gonna use profanity. Sorry. I will try to limit it. But it was the thing of like the body being like, what in the world is happening? And it's a way to shock the system. So that's one way that is very beneficial. Obviously I drank water afterwards. I didn't just like sit with salt in my mouth, but I kept a steady brain after that, right? Because it was like, it was a shock to my system, and that's something that can help, especially in panic attacks, is shocking the nervous system. That's one way to do it. I remember one of my doctors, one of my mental health doctors, I was in an outpatient program for a little bit, and he mentioned that you are in control. He mentioned that you are in control of panic attacks, basically. And it's like, what do you mean I'm in control of a panic attack? Like, they're terrifying, right? Like, if you've ever had a panic attack, you know. And he was like, you feel it bubbling up, and sometimes it's very difficult, for me especially, to recognize when it's starting to bubble up. I've gotten better at it, but it's one of those deals of like, you can feel it bubbling up and you can take action immediately. So one of the ways that he mentioned this was basically like, when you are in the middle of starting a panic attack, like breathing. Breathing helps so much in so many different ways. One of my favorite ways to breathe, this is actually something that I learned through vocal techniques. So one of the things that I did was vocal therapy, because I had an injury to my vocal cords. So I did vocal therapy for a little bit, and one of the things that I learned was this thing called triangle breathing. Triangle breathing is basically where you count. Okay, so hear me out. We're crocheters, right? We know how to count, obviously, definitely, 100%. We definitely don't mess up our counting ever. But it's very simple. So you breathe in, you hold, and then you breathe out. You do that in the span of 3 seconds. So breathe in 1 second, hold for 1 second, breathe out for 1 second. Then you bump it up to 2. Breathe in for 2, hold for 2, out for 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yada, yada, yada. And it calms you down. It's very nice when you're especially in the middle of a panic attack, because you're like hyperventilating and shit. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. I'm just like panicking. Try triangle breathing. Because you're hyperventilating, right? And so you want to breathe fast. So breathe in very fast. Hold it. That's important. And then breathe out. And do it again for 2. And then again for 3. And then again for 4. And so on until you're calm. It's helped me a ton in all my years of panic attacks. It's helped a lot in these past few years that I've known about that trick. So that's something that I definitely encourage you to do. Another thing that I've been implementing a lot for these past 24 hours is mindfulness. And when it comes to crochet specifically, I love to crochet. Crocheting is my favorite thing in the world, basically, to do. It's my favorite hobby. I learned how to crochet through YouTube and I never went back. But it can be very mindful. And crochet can help in a lot of ways, but I'm going to talk about the mindfulness first. For instance, if your brain is just going in too many places, we have negative thoughts going on, we have flashbacks going on, count the stitches. Just literally just like, hold on if I can get it. 1, 2, 3, just count them. You're going to have thoughts, right? You're going to have negative sayings, words. Your brain's gonna bully you when you're in a crisis. The best thing that you can do, and the way that you can show yourself that you are in control, is by telling it to shut up. And sometimes it does take literally telling yourself shut up, but sometimes it's just quieting it. And by counting, by doing something else, by anything that helps you. The best thing to do in a crisis is to stay safe, right? to be healthy. And that's not easy in a crisis, but it's necessary. And so yesterday, when I was in a full-blown crisis, 4 a.m. is when I started this project. I couldn't listen to anything. I didn't have the patience to listen to a video while I crochet, because that's what I usually do. I usually watch YouTube while I crochet. I didn't have the patience for that. But I could count. Just 1, 2, 3. I encourage you to consider that, for sure. Another way that crochet helps, especially if you have something like severe trauma or PTSD, is crocheting in a way is cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, if you don't know what CBT is, the acronym, if you don't know what CBT is, it's basically, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a CBT expert, I normally work with DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, but what I know is that it's basically working like outside of your body to process trauma. For instance, people who are in, say, EMDR, it's a trauma therapy, will look at a light and have it go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and they have to process the trauma while they're doing that. Or I know someone who had buzzers in their hand that would go off, and they had to process the trauma while they did that. Crochet works both of your hands, right? It does. I mean, you literally have to have your hand in with the hook, and then have your other hand holding the yarn, and they have to work in tandem. And for me, personally, that has helped me process trauma a lot. Sometimes it is just too overwhelming, right? And I've had times when I've had flashbacks and I've been crocheting, and it's like my hands are shaky, my vision is blurring, like I'm hyperventilating, and it's like, no, this isn't what I need right now. And that's important to recognize too, is what you need in the moment. That's really important, actually. Knowing yourself, right? Because when we're in a crisis, you have to stay in control, which is not easy. It's gonna take a lot of practice, but it's necessary, because you will get through it. You will. But you don't want to be stupid about it. You know what I'm saying? If you know, you know. Let me just put it that way. If you know, you know, and you don't want to do something you're gonna regret. So, practicing things that are mindful can help a ton. Another way to do this is by not necessarily crocheting, but just looking around. Something that I've been doing in this past 24 hours, like I mentioned, I couldn't basically like sit still for too long. Like I could sit still, I don't have energy right now. I slept for 3 hours. But I couldn't listen to anything really that was like longer than 10 minutes. But I just sat and I let my thoughts pass by. I didn't spiral with them, I just let them pass by. And I just sat in silence. And I looked around. And I just existed in the moment. Sometimes that's what you need, to recognize that it's okay to just exist in the moment. One thing, hold on. Hold the phone. I assume you're watching this on a phone. If you're not, kudos to you. I always watch YouTube on a phone. I rarely watch YouTube on my laptop. But we're gonna take a hit. So, cheers. Honestly, taking seshes can help me calm down, especially if I'm using something like a vape or anything, and it has menthol in it. The menthol cools my throat. It's the other thing about temperature, right? Is it is a different temperature. And so it helps with being in the moment and shocking that system a little bit. And the other thing is that you have to breathe deeply, right? You don't have to, but I do. And that helps too. So I am going to take a swig of my Starbies from this morning though. Chai latte. I love chai. I love chai so much, actually. It is literally my favorite. Side tangent. Chai is great. It is very tasty in my opinion. If you get like a good chai, it's like, oh, so good. But back to the topic of the video, doing those little things to help with your mindfulness in the moment can help a ton. Also, sorry if you heard the people in the background. I only have a curtain. I don't have a door, and that is by choice. I wish I had a door now, but when I was a kid, because I'm in my childhood bedroom right now. I'm at my parents' house. This isn't my regular setup, not at all. This is my first setup, but it's not my regular one. I normally live somewhere else, but I'm at my parents for right now because it's spring break, so I'm up here with them. But yeah, like knowing what helps you, and I assume if you're watching this, it's either crocheting, gardening, or both. It's just like do what helps you, right? And as long as you're doing it healthfully, because anything can go too far. Especially with crocheting. I've crocheted to the point that my hands go numb. Like, that's not healthy. And I recognize that. And so I'm like, I have to keep this in frame. I always forget. Recognizing your limits is very important too. So, my dad has a YouTube channel called The Daily 180 Path to Progress. I'll link it in the description. And basically it's about how we can make small changes in our daily lives to make progress in them. And he did a video on the 5th, I think, about birthdays. He had a birthday recently. Dad, I love you if you're watching this. You know I wished you happy birthday, but again, happy birthday. Glad you made it another year. Speaking of, it was about birthdays. And he thought to himself, he was like, how silly that we celebrate surviving another year. And then he thought about that for a second. No one's life is easy. I'm never gonna say it is. But his life and mine have been hell sometimes. For me, it is right now. And he thought about that and he was like, a year is made up of 12 months, which is made up of 4 to 5 weeks, which is made up of 7 days, which is made up of 24 hours. That's a long ass time, guys. You know? Like, that's a long time. And recognizing that and giving yourself the appreciation to yourself for surviving another year, for surviving another day, for surviving another hour, that can be so powerful. All of us have had bad days. But you know what's really cool? You survived every single damn one of them. You've survived every single bad day that came to you. And that's powerful. That's really powerful. And it's really cool to see. It's really cool. My camera's dying, so I'm gonna have to go, but I hope this was insightful. I hope you had fun with me. Let's take another hit for the road, and then I'll sign off. Find the good in the day. Doesn't have to be a good day, but find the good in the day. My name is LJ. I'm glad you were here. I'll get better at outros eventually, but I hope you had a good time, and I hope I helped you in any small way. 1 degree of hope can change everything. I promise. Take care.